Okay, it appears that I'm live. I'm at the Holiday Hilton Resort in Hawaii, and Malika is trying to check in. If you look over here and see behind me is an extensive line. This is the main part of the hotel. Lots and lots of people are here. I'm going to turn in this other direction too. Apparently, this is the epicenter for all of the hotel activity, and there's lots and lots and lots and lots of people around. So I'm getting a little bit of the background that you see. There's some folks that are lounging around a swimming pool. Some people eating. First time in Hawaii, so it's kind of interesting to see all the buildings and see how the construction is actually designated. So, but on this day, as we talk about trying new things and getting ready to do new things, one thing I guess we did not anticipate was the extensive lines that are here for people trying to check in. But nevertheless, on this Take 7, when you're traveling, you got to deal with contingencies. And of course, we always talk about contingencies and things that came up or come up. Um, I want to just share an incident. Wasn't really traumatic. It could have been if I had not been conscious of, you know, what I was doing. I had had some irritation with my eyes earlier, and that kind of threw me off a little bit. The flight was nearly, well, all combined 12 hours. You know, we flew out of Montgomery, which was relatively convenient for us, and then out of Atlanta, and that was almost a 10-hour trip from there. So we're just now getting here. We're a little bit fatigued, but nevertheless, got kids running around all around me, running around this water and pool, and but I wanted to share an experience because as I was getting off the plane, we know this is a time where you have to manage resources well. You have to manage your time, you have to manage your money, you have to manage the things that you have. And so as I was getting off the plane, I had noticed that my wallet was not in my pocket. So that was a pretty big deal because not being here or being here the first time in Hawaii without any identification, you know, you got to stay on top of your identification. You need it. So, nevertheless, we had some help with the attendant. Malika went back and tried to go in and look, try to save the elder a little bit of time, energy, and effort. She tries to do that from time to time, and I told her she don't have to do that, but nevertheless, we work on that. But the whole point is, when you are traveling, you gotta make sure that you maintain and sustain your belongings. You gotta maintain and sustain the things that you have, and particularly as it relates to your identification. It could have been a bad situation. So they really don't allow you to go back on the planes. And this was like some kind of an air bus that we were on. And I should have got the numbers to find out how many people was on this particular air bus, but it was lot of capacity on that. Originally, I thought it was going to be a Boeing 747, but nevertheless, it was an Airbus, and hundreds of people were on that bus, on that actual plane. They call it an Airbus. So when I went back, or when Malika went back to try it, they wouldn't let her go all the way back, and then they looked. They had an attendant look, and couldn't really locate it. Told me that maybe I need to look in my bag. Of course, I knew I didn't have it in my bag, despite the fact that I was a little disoriented. My eyes were hurting, and I had a little slight headache. But nevertheless, I was aware of the fact that I attempted to pull out some money to pay for something to drink because on the airlines, typically that's something that you have to do. But in this instance, we didn't. Even though we flew a long, great distance, we still did not have to pay for a lot of the drinks and so forth that are normally accustomed paid for when you're flying on those kind of flights. But so the lesson is that When you are traveling, control your belongings, and specifically, you want to make sure that as far as it relates to your identification, you want to have hands on right away, be able to get it right away, and that's very, very important. So since they weren't letting people go back on the plane, that was an additional factor, and the reason that was simply the fact that that plane was in the process. As soon as we landed here in Honolulu, that plane was going to be used to go, that Airbus rather was going to be used to go to another location. And so pilots were changing and getting on and getting off, and so that plane was going to go. Now, can you imagine if I hadn't had presence of mind to know that I need to get my identification immediately, then I could have had a terrible situation occur. But nevertheless, I was able to remember pointedly that I needed to get my identification. And as a consequence, they looked the first time, didn't find it. And then they looked again, and then they found it. So, long story short, I got my wallet right here, right now, and I'm back in back in control of the things that I can control, which is my personal belongings. Now, this thing about this line where all these people in my background, where you see we had to wait for that, that's the contingency I can't control. But my belongings, which are prominently here, right by me, I can control that. My personal possessions, I can control that. So it's kind of like, I want to say, as far as personal control of the things that you can control, you need to think in a modified form of kind of like the serenity prayer. We have to accept the things that we cannot change the things that we can, and have the wisdom to know the difference of when we can change those things and when we cannot. What you can do is you can control your personal belongings. What you can do is make sure, especially when you're traveling to distant places and all that, that you do have your identification. Because if I had lost that wallet completely, then I would have had some challenges getting back from Hawaii back to, in this instance, Alabama, and that would have been another challenge. But nevertheless, challenge averted by being conscious of I gotta be in control of the things that I have, and I'm gonna stay on top of that. So that's gonna do it for the Take 7 today. I hope y'all are having a blessed day. Take the time to enjoy yourself. We're gonna do a lot of processing related to how to make things better in our relationship, because that's what you have to do, keep on improving and keep on improving, and particularly in these times. So that's going to conclude this Take 7 with the Beloved Line for the Beloved Tribe Life. Remember, align yourself, live your dreams, and transform your world. Be blessed. We'll be in touch.